Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. It's Derby Day. We're about 30 minutes before kick-off. I'm Chris McElwain, filling in for Paul John Dykes, who is at Barra's Art and Design just now, with around about, we reckon, about 400 fellow Celtic supporters who are going to be enjoying the game on the live screen. But just to compensate for the loss of Paul John, I've got Sean Connolly with me, who's a more than able substitute. Welcome, Sean. How are you doing?
Yeah, not so bad. It's starting to get a little bit cooler down here, but it's not too bad. And I'm looking forward to being in my bed before midnight tonight. That's very nice. I do like these afternoon kickoffs in the middle of the day for Scotland. It's very nice for me. Yeah. I would have preferred it being a Saturday, although you wouldn't have me probably if it's a Saturday. I'd probably go out to the club instead of watching it at home.
Ditching us for the club, unbelievable. But yeah, it is heating up here in Glasgow, and we hope to send Sean to bed happy. Hopefully the boys can do the job. Lots to talk about ahead of the game. We've got obviously a few talking points around the team selection. Then we want to look at how we expect the game to shape up and what we hope to see over the 90 minutes. With that, let's get right to it, and we'll start straight away with the big talking point. I'll bring the team up on screen rather. Sean, two names jump out at us there. So the first one is obviously is the absence of Callum McGregor, who's been replaced in the lineup by McCowan. It seems like Callum McGregor, as the manager alluded to, has been struggling with a calf injury. However, now we have also some changes in the central defence as well, where we've got partnering in Carter Vickers. We have the lesser seen Mike Nawrocki coming in for Austin Trusty, who I believe is with his wife, who's on labour at the moment. And we do send best wishes to the Trusty family. Hopefully it's a safe and healthy delivery there. But yeah, going back to the team. Nawrocki came in, Sean. It's a bit of a game to bring a player of when he's not really had a lot of football. In fact, he's had very, very little football this season. And a lot of people were clamouring maybe to see Dane Murray, who is on the bench, maybe step in. But the manager's plumbed for Nawrocki. What do we need to see from him today?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the way I believe this is his third appearance, but the last two have been off the bench. So I think this is his first start this season, if I'm not wrong. I think he came off the bench in the Scottish Cup and came off the bench in the League Cup. And I think his sum total of minutes for the season is 23. So for the first team. So this is his first start, and he's going from having played 23 minutes to presumably he'll play at least an hour. So that's a very interesting decision. I would have thought Dane Murray would have played, having played more minutes this season. But I suspect what's happening is they're thinking more long-term for Dane Murray, and they're trying to protect him from any mental strife that might arise from anything that goes wrong at a high-pressure game. So I think that's probably the reason they put Nawrocki in, just to protect Murray's long-term outlook. Even then, still find it a surprise because the way we got beat at Ibrox was we were not able to pass the ball, and I don't believe Nawrocki has a great history of passing the ball well. I remember when Brendan Rodgers first came back and we were about 4 or 5 games in, and Callum McGregor saying, I don't understand what's going wrong, and a lot of that was down to Nawrocki and Lagerbielke just shelling the ball forward. So I hope that's been coached out of him, and we see a bit more composure and passing. And yeah, I mean, it's a concern, but hopefully we play well enough that it doesn't matter. Obviously, there's a bigger out than Austin Trusty in the team, but there's no bigger in, I think, than Mike Nawrocki getting his first start of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I suppose one way you look at it is it could be an opportunity. Let me ask you this though, Sean. Would you have brought Nawrocki in if we weren't 16 points clear at the moment?
Well, the question then is either do you put Alistair Johnson in defence or Dane Murray or Mike? That's your 3 to choose from, right? Personally, like Anthony Ralston as a centre back, but it never really happens. Such a cliche to say the game's won and lost in midfield, but hey, we're missing our captain in midfield, so that's the case, then that's going to be an issue as well. I was just watching the Sky Sports pre-match there. It's the first time we've played a Glasgow derby without Callum McGregor since August 2016.
Wow.
Which is when he was on the bench in that game, apparently just not selected. So it's been a long time since we've played any blue teams out of Ibrox without Callum McGregor. So that's going to be an interesting one. A few shouts in the last few games suggesting that Engels has looked pretty good in the six, and that we've maybe looked good overall. Though I say better, but good overall with McGregor taking a spell. But I also would say that that's up against tiring players in the last half hour of the game when they're opening up and chasing the game when they're already losing. So I would say it's not really a valid comparison. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure, because my main concern about, obviously you would have had Engels and Hatate starting anyway, but my concern was McCowan coming in. I think McCowan's a great football player. I really do. I think he's got great vision for a pass. He can score a goal. What I think he lacks is he doesn't cover his angles well, his passing lanes. There's a bit of a defensive vulnerability there from him, which is not to say he doesn't put himself about. He does, but I think his positioning sense is not that of a centre mid. So I think maybe he'll probably play a little bit further forward, but even then, it's still an issue.
Yep.
Yeah, who knows? We're heavy favourites, but I just don't feel it, and I never feel it. To be fair, I'm a pessimist. So you big up, Chris. You take it away. You're more pessimistic. You're more optimistic.
I'll try and balance it out. I mean, look, I think you're right in terms of sometimes you don't realise what you lose with Calmac being out until he's out. But at the same time, I think this is a game where you look at a player of Engels' quality and you're asking him essentially to step up and take a bit of responsibility. We always talk about leadership in the team. Carter Vickers takes on the captaincy today. He's got Big Casper playing behind him as usual, but he's going to have a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, trying to probably to a degree, and I mean this with the greatest respect to the player, but trying to school Nawrocki to get him back up to speed, because there's obviously going to be some rustiness having not played, and they've not had the opportunity to build that up that understanding. So, as I said on the Acsom group chat, I think we're going to have a degree of patience. Initially, I reckon there might be some nervy moments from Nawrocki at the back as he gets himself up to speed. But hopefully the players around him, like AJ, as you mentioned, like Carter Vickers, these real leaders in the team will step up. Similarly, when we come into midfield, I agree with you with McCowan. I think he's very early in his Celtic career, albeit he's a seasoned player by now. But I think what you're looking for is players like Engels, who's obviously very well established in the team, to try and step up and support McCowan, maybe cover some of those defensive vulnerabilities that McCowan has. Rio Hatate, I think, sometimes looks like he thrives on taking a bit of responsibility as well. So I'm hoping that he comes in today. And I think that the way we maybe counter some of the concerns about the players missing is we look at the players who are up front today. You've got Jota, you've got Maeda, you've got Kuhn. 3 players with pace, aggression, invention, and goals in them. So there's a great outlet for the midfield as well, and I think that's where we can really help Rangers. Let's just jump back to the team for a moment. Some of the concerns that are coming in on the comments, and I echo that, is as we look through the lineup, it's pretty strong, albeit, we've spoken about Nawrocki coming in, we've spoken about McCowan coming in. Most people seem pretty comfortable with McCowan. Obvious concerns about Nawrocki, but I think we've spoken about those. However, a lot of people concerned about the bench, Sean. And when you look at the bench there's not a huge amount of first-team experience on there. Okay, you've got Taylor, you've got Ida, Yang starting to become a bit more established. Tony Ralston, we know what he can do. But then you look at Turley, Bonner, Kenny, Murray, Sinisalo. There's, 5 players who've not really seen a lot of game time, and certainly not in a game of this magnitude. Is that a concern as the game goes on? If we are looking to, try and win the game later in the day, do we have enough on the bench, do you think?
Well, I'll give you the cop-out answer, Chris. It depends how the game's going. If we're
that is a cop-out.
If we're 3 or 4 up, absolutely wonderful. We can bring the kids on to get a taste of they did that to us at Ibrox, right? They started bringing on the kids in the last 10 minutes. So if we're cruising, no dramas. But when I looked at that bench, that really stood out to me. There's only 4 first-team players on there. So that means we theoretically, if we're struggling, we're not going to be making our full quotient of subs. I was just side-eyeing the Brendan Rodgers pre-match quotes there. He's saying Austin Trusty has a calf injury, not a paternity issue. So he's apparently injured. And they said McGregor was given to the last minute, but it was still tight, so they're not risking him. So I guess he'll get a 2-week break now.
Interesting. I did see someone in the comments talk about it was potentially a calf injury for Trusty, so good spot from both of you there. Fantastic. Let's take a quick look at some of the comments just to get a feeling for what the general mood is. So Jungle Lion comes in, as is traditional. We're not the first commenter today, but that's because Paul John put the link up very early on. But we'll make you first anyway. Very interesting team, weak bench, I think, just as we've spoken about. Sean Thompson comes in, welcome to the channel. Would have started Dane Murray, in my opinion. Few people echoing that, maybe thinking that this is a good chance for Dane Murray, but I think Sean's right. It could be with a view to Dane Murray's longer term future. Craig McMeekin, hopefully I pronounced that right. Nawrocki from out the freezer, that's a real concern. Surely Big Dane would make more sense. Stephen Sloan, welcome to the channel. Loving some of the musical videos. Stephen, keep it up, mate. You're doing great. Our bench is so bare bones. I feel we need to win the game in the first half because I can't see the bench changing the game in the second half, just as we were talking about. Here's an interesting one you didn't mention, Sean. Richie Pete comes in to say, Schlupp centre-back and Taylor left-back. With that selection, I can't see Taylor starting again. Let's talk a little bit about that. So would that have been an option maybe to bring Taylor in at left-back and move Schlupp infield? It does look like a very adaptable player. Maybe an option if it's not working out with Nawrocki to play that way. I mean, we know what Taylor can bring to the table. We know, where he gets his criticisms, but at the same time, he's an experienced, established pro.
It's a good point, and it would have maintained balance with having a left-sided player on the left side of the fence. But when you think back to Ibrox and basically how he's been in big games since then, Taylor's persona non grata at the moment. So I don't know that it's. I suspect Rodgers has that in mind as well. That Taylor really was probably the poorest player, let's be honest. Between him and Hatate, they were the two poorest players at Ibrox. Hatate gets his chance at redemption today. Taylor has to sit on the bench and he'll probably come on at some point to get his chance. I had a quick look at their team and I couldn't quite figure out how they're going to line up. And that's not just because of Barry Ferguson's dyscalculia and, like chucking numbers about, I don't think he knows what the formation is, but what I gather they play 3 at the back now, with Tavernier as part of that or something. I don't know. Ridvan and Sterling, are they wing backs? I can't, but then that would mean 3 defensive midfielders and basically 2 counter-attacking strikers and Cherny and Dessers. And that's a kind of a small team formation, right? That's what you get. St. Johnstone. That's a Jim Goodwin formation, right? That's.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what they're going for. They're going for parking the bus. They're going for not playing the invention. Look, the formation will be irrelevant if they come and press us and harass us and stop us from playing our game in the same way that they did in the last 2 games. Then we're going to struggle, and with some of the players that we've got missing, we might struggle anyway. So it is there for them. I was surprised at how heavy favourites we are with the bookies. Even after the teams were announced, I get it that we've won 5 in a row at home, but still, we've not beat them over 90 minutes in the last 2 games. They are buoyed with their European win. There's no evidence that they're going to be fatigued, generally speaking. I think the last time they came off a extra time European game, they took us to extra time in the Scottish Cup semi-final and looked the fitter team. So I don't know that that's going to be an issue for them. I think that when you do that, you just spend 2 days recovering and working in tactics. They've basically not trained since Thursday. So the only edge we might have is if we can get the tactical edge. So I guess what it could come down to, and we could be talking about this at halftime, full time quite easily, is it could come down to what Brendan Rodgers and his coaching team does today. We've not risked the players that are walking wounded. We have had a full week of preparation, and we hopefully have learned lessons from the last 2 games, particularly the one at Ibrox. So I'm hoping Rodgers has something up his sleeve. Looking at the team that's going out, it looks like it's similar, very samey, but I'd hope there's something a bit different about it, so that we don't see the same falling apart that we have done in previous games. And not even just falling apart, sorry, that's harsh. We fell apart at Ibrox, but even we didn't look comfortable in the last 2 games against them. And I'm hoping that Rodgers has got something a bit different to try and work our way around that. Or do you think he's just going to go with the Ange system, just play better? And plan A, but better.
ultimately that's what it comes down to. I mean, we've spoken about it so many times that we know the talent that some of these players have got within the Celtic squad, and certainly in the first team. We know what they can bring to the table, but sometimes it's just doing the basics well. Doing the basics well. What we don't want to see is, 5 or 6 yard passes going awry. We don't want to see players failing to cover their zones, getting caught out too far up the field, for example, or getting caught out with the counter. We don't want to see players panicking and not taking responsibility on the ball. So I think it's about doing the basics today for me. I'm looking for a professional performance. I think, these are the type of games that, as much as on paper you'd think we should have this one in the bag, you can never predict what's going to happen over 45 minutes, over 90 minutes. When you come up against your rivals, the pressure, they might be buoyed by that result midweek. But you're hoping it's taking something out of the legs. You're hoping maybe towards the end of the game that actually we've got opportunities to get in behind, etc., that kind of thing. So certainly hoping that we do the basics well, and then we get the chance to kind of showcase some of our skills. And I think let's look at the forward line then. So he's plumbed for what many people wanted. We've got Dyson Maeda up front. We know how he's terrorised Rangers in the past, particularly James Tavernier. I think he's got the capability of doing it against any defence, for example. We've got Jota back, getting fitter, starting to look more like his old self every game. You think every time he's in training, every time he's coming, he's getting minutes on the park, he's looking to bring something to the table. What I've liked is he's a player who'll take the ball, take on a man, and look to create something, whether it's a shot, whether it's creating an opportunity for another player. It's great. Kuhn, maybe the player who's kind of gone off the boil a little bit in recent matches, but you're hoping he gets a resurgence to his, the form that he's shown for the bulk of this season. I think with them, you can take the game out of Rangers' hands. You can basically get the ball to these players, and any of the three of them have got the capability of unlocking the defence and creating a goal, scoring a goal, whatever it may be. How important are they going to be today? And do you think it's the right choice to go with Maeda as opposed to Ida for this game?
I think very important, especially if it sounds like, or looks like, the Lazarus team have really packed that centre, 3 in the centre defence, 3 in the centre midfield. So it's going to be very important that the wide players can stretch the game and pull those central players out of position to create space. Otherwise it's just going to be hitting shots into bodies, and it's going to be a very low percentage goal that we do score from. But you're right to highlight the fact that the strongest, clearly, if you break the team down into thirds, the strongest unit of our team is the front third. Kuhn has not been at the same form as he was in the first half of the season, but he looked pretty on it at the start of the Hibs game. So I'm hoping that carries on in today, and we get a strong finish from him. If Maeda's on it in any similar way to the way he's been recently, then he could score a hat trick today, and it'd be an amazing day for him. I just don't know why I've just got this vision in my head, and you can tell me if it's fair or not. But I've just got this vision of Butland spilling one and Maeda like rattling it into the net. I don't know if that's just because he does it against so many goalkeepers, or if it's because Butland does it as well. A la Scottish Cup final. But if I'm visioning something happening, it's that. It's a Butland spill and a Maeda as the fastest player to react, which is often surprisingly the decider in these games. When you think to the Scottish Cup semi where Jota scores a header, right. And again, it's because everyone stops and Maeda is the first to react.
His reactions are excellent, and you're seeing more and more of it this season. He's just so quick to react to situations. I think it's one of his best assets as a forward.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's a degree of anticipation about it as well, because when we had Kyogo in his second season or whatever, when he was really firing, we're always saying, look, as this striker's hitting the shot, or the midfielder, Kyogo's already moving, he's already anticipating a mistake, and Kyogo was mopping up those chances, and he kind of stopped doing that a bit, but Maeda seems to be doing it now. So I hope that's what we see today. I hope that we see Jota getting their wing-back / full-back booked early. I hope that we see Kuhn taking them to the byline, Engels, McCowan making the runs into the box. I want us to play with a good intensity and with bit of class as well, not just a bit of skill, not just intensity. Because what Barry Ferguson said this week is, I think he explicitly said he wants the players to do, what was the word, dirty side of the game. And if you remember back to the Alloa game when he was the coach, and he basically said, sent his players out to break ankles, is what he said after the game. And then that was what happened to Edeguchi, who basically never kicked a ball for Celtic again after he got his ankle crunched. Right. So I'm hoping that, I don't expect the officials to do well today. They tend to try and wait as long as possible without yellow carding someone. It's usually the second half before you see the yellow card, unless it's something pretty obvious and egregious. Usually the only time you see a yellow card in the first half is when someone's stopping a counter-attack on the pullback. They'll usually get away with 3 or 4 kicks before they get booked. So watch out for that today, particularly from Diomande, who'll kick players and run into them and all sorts of nonsense and get away with it for most of the game. So yeah, that's what will happen.
No, I'll bring a couple of comments there, just interesting on that point. Sharon Thompson comes in and says the game is in the hands of the officials. So just going to your point, I mean, how important is it today, Sean, that the officials have a strong game and, you know, there's not this dubiety over decisions. You don't let too much go, but at the same time, you want the game to be able to flow, right? You don't want yellow cards out immediately when it starts to, you know, impair the game. But you also want a referee that's going to be strong in terms of cutting out any challenges, making sure that we don't see dark arts from Rangers, which, you know, as you say, Barry Ferguson's alluded to, and, you know, we saw enough of it during his playing career as well.
I actually think they've not been too bad in recent derby games. They've been under enough scrutiny after stuff like John Beaton allowing Morelos to stand on Anthony Ralston's back. What was the one where Willie Collum awarded a penalty when he heard Kirk Broadfoot falling over and didn't even see it. There's not been much of that lately. I wonder if VAR is part of that as well. And maybe with... I forgot his name. The one that Willie Collum took over for after he left. Sorry?
Was it Crawford Allen? No.
Crawford Allen, yeah. Once he left, it seems to be... the transparency's increased, and I think that's helped as well. Because before they could just, you know, shuffle back to their lodge or the Bells Hill bar or whatever it is that John Beaton drinks at, do their third knuckle handshakes, and that was it. You know, there was no more scrutiny. That was it. Pats on the back and a pint bought for you. But now there's very public scrutiny. There's instant scrutiny with VAR, and I think it is helping keep them more honest. You still see, you know, the unconscious bias come through at times, but I think the conscious bias is as in check as it can be with these extra levels of accountability. And I'm glad for that, but you're right, it could still be a dodgy. And look, Jock Stein always said you need to be good enough that it doesn't matter what the referee does, and that's true in every game, and it'll be true today.
Well, hopefully it's not something we're talking about too much at half time. Let's get some more comments coming in. Let's see, John Sweeney comes in. Schlupp needs to be on his game today. His chairman will certainly try and cut inside and target Nawrocki, especially his lack of games. I think that's the concern, is that maybe there is, you know, they may take the opportunity to test Nawrocki's fitness and test his sharpness. So, he'll need to be on it right from the first minute. But I think Schlupp, big responsibility on him today. And he certainly seems to be a player that's thriving on it. Really good performances since he's joined, which is great. Donny Tiny Hands comes in. The bench is rotten, but then comes in and says, could see us drawing or losing this game. I understand that when you look at the bench, but I still think there's enough about our first team. And we've got a couple of good options coming off the bench in Ida, obviously Taylor, and indeed Yang, who is keen to make an impression when he comes on as well. Brendan McCarthy comes in. I thought if anything, Dane Murray would get the nod, but I hope Big Mike has a cracker. Yep, absolutely. Let's get behind the player. I think he's been selected, so he deserves our support. I'm going to bring this one up as more of a personal one, but I do, you know, I appreciate this. So it's Martin Linton, who anyone will remember a few weeks back, me and Martin had, let's just say, words on here. But I appreciate Martin coming in and saying, all right, Chris Double D, many apologies after the last outburst on here. Was out of line. Come on to Celtic. Takes a big man to do that. So I appreciate it, Martin, and I give the same back. So appreciate taking the time to do that. And I'll bring you in for a comment here. Brendan must trust these young lads on the bench. Don't worry, everyone. Well, ultimately, that is important. That's correct. We need to trust the manager. I don't think he's given us reason not to trust him this season, so fingers crossed he'll put this over the line. Sean, you spoke a little bit about the goalkeeping position earlier there. You spoke about Butland. He's looked shaky at times. His handling ability doesn't look great. There is opportunities maybe to test it. And it's such a contrast to the player that we have in our own goal, and Kasper Schmeichel. And I couldn't believe it when I saw one of these, I think it was Team of the Week, Team of the Month or something, and it was filled with Celtic and a couple of Rangers players. But incredibly, they had Butland in ahead of Schmeichel. And I could not see that, under any circumstance. I mean, Schmeichel is an absolute Rolls Royce at the moment, the way he's playing for us, isn't
he? Yeah, that's insane. Whoever chose that is absolutely nuts. Schmeichel is the best goalkeeper we've had in probably my life. And if we had him 10 years ago, what an asset he would have been. He's still a fantastic asset. When Joe Hart retired, I was very critical of Celtic for not being proactive and recruiting ahead of that. We've been very lucky that Kasper Schmeichel fell into our lap. In the past, when Fraser Foster was here, I thought he was probably the best goalkeeper I'd seen in my time. And when we failed to bring him back for the 10, I thought that was fatal. And but I would say Kasper Schmeichel this season has been better than Foster was at his best. So, and I thought Foster was sensational. So I think those two, and look, we've had great goalkeepers in Artur Boruc, Craig Gordon as well. But I think in the last 30 years, I think Schmeichel's probably the best. And that's saying something.
Yeah, hopefully we get at least another season. If not more than that. He certainly seems to have the appetite for it. And it seems to be a great place now for goalkeepers or players at the, I suppose what you term as the twilight of their career. I don't think you get that adulation from any fan group compared to what you get with ours. It's just incredible. And Joe Hart experienced it, still talks about it to this day. I think Kasper might be a contender for that by the time he eventually hangs up the gloves. We are getting close to time, so keen to just get a few more comments and then we'll get Sean's prediction and we'll get onto the game. We will be here for half-time and full-time, irrespective of the result of the performance, so stick with us. Slabbering Cabbage comes in. I cannot understand this worry. It's just nervousness as a supporter, but I agree with you. I'm feeling confident. And hopefully my prediction will reflect that shortly. Let's just see. Urban Culture comes in. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about today between injuries and fan lockout. Might just win this 2-0. Yeah, I'd probably still take it. I would like a few more. Cardiff Carl comes in and said, I think we'll play them off the park. They're going to try and kick lumps out of us and hit us on the counter. Physicality is going to be a key part today, but I think one of the things I've liked about Celtic in recent games, Sean, is we seem to be dealing with physical teams a lot better. Engels is looking a bit stronger. He's good at holding players off. Now, I thought Erling's career went down a little bit too easy. Now he seems to be playing better. Schlupp looks a big physical unit now. We don't seem to have the same issue of kind of getting bullied off the ball that we used to have. Now we look much more capable of kind of, keeping possession, retaining the ball, and not allowing us to be brushed off too often. But we'll need to do that again today.
Well, we know if it's going to be a physical game, then Alistair Johnson and Jeffrey Schlupp are going to feature heavily. So I look forward to it, and hopefully we don't have too much tests for Mike Nawrocki. And hopefully Carter Vickers strolls through it and doesn't end up with any more 4-on-1s like he had in the cup final, even though he dealt with it.
Yeah, absolutely did. And he's captaining the team today, so a wee bit extra responsibility, but I'm sure he'll absolutely thrive on it. Okay, Sean, we're approaching kick-off, so what I'd like to get from you now is just how do you think the game will pan out and what's your score prediction for today?
I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be tense. I think it'll be physical. I think it'll be stop-start. We've heard all the pre-match sound bites from the other side of the city. So I think, look, my gut actually says a 1-0 Celtic win with Adam Idah scoring kind of late in the game. I hope it doesn't. I really hope it's not. I hope we run over the top of them. Maedah's got a hat-trick in the first half, but my gut says a relatively late Idah winner for 1-0.
That's tense. I'm not sure my heart can handle that tense. Well, I'm going to go a little bit optimistic, as I always do. Hopefully we'll find a balance in the middle. But I think this game has the potential to be another demolition derby. So all the players on their game. I think fast start. I would like to see Maeda get his hat-trick to take him to 30 for the season. So I am going to go for a 5-1 victory to the Hoops. So with that, We've been over 1,300 strong on the live stream. Really appreciate everyone sticking with us. Hope everyone at Barra's Art and Design is having a great time. It's, I think, 400 strong we were expecting. They actually had to open up the outside area, I believe. So hope everybody's there enjoying their gym or endorsed free pie as well. So, but for everyone that joined us here on a Celtic State of Mind, thank you very much. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you at half time. Thanks, Sean. One hoops.
Yeah, well, one hoops.